into his world.
It really does. We've got two pairs of lyrics. First, AI therapy and family therapy, which Gemini Advanced, the latest 2.5 Pro version, has analyzed in detail.
And then the second pair, paying homage and for your well-being, also with Gemini's breakdown.
Exactly. And our mission really is to get to the heart of what Jimmy's expressing here. We'll use Gemini's analysis as a starting point, but also, connect with it honestly, truthfully, and just genuinely try to understand it.
Absolutely. We're kind of exploring this landscape alongside you, Jimmy. Gemini gives us a map, but we're walking the terrain, seeing what hits us, what questions pop up. It's about seeing how that AI analysis can maybe spark a deeper human understanding of the art.
Okay, let's start with AI therapy. Gemini sums it up as raw, direct, and aggressive critique of artists who misuse AI music generation tools, highlighting authenticity versus the artificial, the value of real work, rejecting sort of superficial fame. What was your first hit looking at this and Gemini's take?
Well, the opening just grabs you, doesn't it? Claim they write music when they have AI do it and abuse it. And that line, "This is not going to be fun for you."
Yeah.
It's not subtle. It's confrontational right off the bat.
Yeah.
So it's a really strong tone. Makes you wonder, what sparked that level of reaction?
Right. And then saying, fuck a rhyme. It's like a statement, isn't it? Prioritizing the raw message, the truth, over just making it sound neat and tidy.
Exactly. It rejects convention.
Did Gemini pick up on that? That sort of prioritizing the core message?
Yeah, Gemini mentioned the unfiltered passion. And I think that line is a perfect example. It's substance over style, maybe. It fits with Gemini seeing this as something deeply felt, not just a technical argument. It kind of asks, well, what is the real value in art today? For Jimmy, it seems to be that raw, honest voice.
And that Nintendo comparison, comparing AI misuse to playing track and field on the first Nintendo, that's pretty specific.
It is, and it's brilliant, isn't it? It immediately makes you think of something, basic, simple, lacking depth compared to mastering a real craft.
Totally diminishes the effort involved.
Right. It taps into that whole debate about process versus just output. Is creating just about the final thing, or is it about the struggle, the learning, the work? Jimmy clearly thinks the work is essential.
And then he puts his own struggle right next to it, talking about barely hanging onto my phone when I dropped this beat with a mix of defeat and a baffling disease. And then immediately pivots to, so your AI algorithm platform can do all die heavy lifting. That contrast is really stark.
Incredibly powerful. It makes it personal, doesn't it? It's not just an abstract point anymore. It's like he's saying, look, this is what I'm putting in, even with my own stuff going on, while others are just hitting easy mode.
Yeah.
It gives his argument a kind of moral weight. Gemini flagged that mix of aggression and vulnerability, and this is like Exhibit A. There's anger, sure, but maybe frustration too. Seeing genuine effort, maybe getting sidelined.
And then putting his name on it, Jimmy James, in that challenge. If you have any complaints, you know where and how to find me. That's bold.
Very bold. It says, I stand by this, come talk to me.
In an age where people often hide online, that directness is really noticeable. These aren't just throwaway comments. They're like core beliefs.
Definitely. And the not ever, never ever about relying on AI. No gray area there.
None at all. It's a hard line.
Even the outro, right. Focusing on impact, meaning not just clicks or quick fame. It all circles back to those core values. Exactly. That repetition, never ever, hammers it home. And the outro confirms it's about lasting value through real effort, not just chasing trends with tech shortcuts. Gemini saw that emphasis on effort over superficiality, and it runs right through the track.
Okay, let's switch gears to family therapy. Gemini calls this one deeply personal and emotionally raw, exploring complex family stuff, especially with his mother and extended family. Themes like vulnerability, empathy, maybe patterns across generations, and how hard love can be when there's conflict. What's the initial feeling you get from this one?
The shift in tone is immediate, right? After the outward aggression of AI therapy, this feels intensely vulnerable. The start with the timestamp and personal notes, talking about bills, feeling unwell, it grounds it in such a real personal space.
Yeah, sets the stage.
You know right away this is going to be intimate, maybe difficult.
And that line, isn't that what empathy is? Share your heart, let it bleed for someone in need. That feels really key, doesn't it? Like maybe that's why he's sharing something so personal.
I think so. It frames the whole thing, not just as getting things off his chest, but potentially as a way to connect, to offer understanding to others who might be going through similar things, sharing vulnerability to build empathy.
The main conflict seems to be around his mother's illness and, what he calls her denial.
Hmm.
That's tough territory. A lot of people can probably relate to watching someone struggle and maybe not face it head on. And then he wrestles with writing about it. Promised myself I would never write anything bad about her, but then acknowledges her own narcissistic tendencies. That's really honest about a complicated feeling.
It's incredibly honest and brave to put out there. It shows how complex family love is. You can feel affection, duty, and frustration, or hurt all at once. Calling out narcissistic tendencies isn't just blame, it's part of this whole tangled thing he's trying to process. Gemini noted the raw honesty, and that internal conflict is a perfect example.
But even with all that difficulty, he still says, she's still my mom's N, I'm her kid.
Right.
That fundamental bond is still there. And then he reaches out, thinking about others who've lost people, wondering if his mom could see his side. It brings it back to that shared human pain and wanting to be understood.
Yeah, that "I'm her kid" line is like an anchor. It keeps that core connection central, even with all the turbulence. And reaching out to others, it lifts the personal story into something more universal about loss and needing understanding.
Describing those tendencies as a parasitic disease, that's really strong language. Shows the kind of impact he feels it's had.
Very strong. Visceral.
And the way the refrain slams together, I love Uma with sadly all fucking lies, and the criticism of the extended family, these motherfuckers will eat you alive. It paints such a stark picture of love mixed with intense pain and maybe distrust of others around her.
That juxtaposition is the emotional core, isn't it? It's not simple. It's love, frustration, maybe even trying to protect his mom from others he sees negatively. Gemini talked about that tension between frustration and tenderness, and that refrain just lays it bare.
And it ends with another word game, which leaves you feeling kind of weary, like these dynamics just keep repeating and don't really change.
Yeah, weary is a good word. Or maybe resigned, like despite trying, the basic patterns are stuck. Gemini mentioned unresolved tension in the outro, and that line definitely gives you that feeling. Makes you think about those endless family cycles.
So Gemini pointed out that both tracks share that direct, unfiltered style. It's interesting, right? Different subjects, one external critique, one deeply internal. But the way he expresses himself feels consistent. Why do you think that is?
Well, it suggests that maybe this directness, this lack of filter, is just core to his artistic voice. Maybe he tackles everything inside or out with that same commitment to just laying it out there raw and honest. No sugarcoating.
Like an authenticity that cuts across topics.
Could be. It speaks to a kind of integrity in his expression.
It makes you wonder if that same hunt for truth, as he defines it, is driving both. Calling out fakeness in art, but also exposing the difficult truths in his own family life.
That's a really interesting thought. Yeah, maybe for Jimmy, pursuing truth is just fundamental. So whether it's directed outward or inward, the impulse is the same. Speak plainly, speak honestly about what feels real.
And thinking about the stress he mentions in family therapy, feeling unwell, money worries, you can almost see how that kind of personal weight might intensify his reaction in AI therapy.
Right.
Like if you're struggling personally, seeing something you perceive as inauthentic or effortless in art might hit even harder.
That's a really insightful connection. It suggests that maybe those personal vulnerabilities do fuel the passion against perceived fakeness elsewhere. It shows how our inner worlds shape how we see the outer world, doesn't it?
Okay, let's shift to the next pair. Pay and homage and for your well-being. For pay and homage, Gemini sees it as about respecting fellow creators, reflecting on the journey. Themes of authenticity again, words having impact, and that kind of bittersweet feeling around seeking recognition. What's the vibe you get from Gemini's take on this one?
Well, the tone feels different immediately, doesn't it? Still honest, but maybe more reflective. Outward looking in a more positive way, perhaps. Gemini breaking down the structure, intro, hook, choir, makes it feel maybe more deliberate in its message.
Yeah, more structured.
And that specific shout out to Sophia Day Poet really stood out in Gemini's notes, like a concrete example of the unwatched theme right there.
Right. And the choir section Gemini mentioned, reflecting on doing the work without the usual rewards, but still finding value in expressing truth and pain. That really taps into why so many artists create, doesn't it? That internal drive.
Absolutely. That section captures something real for a lot of creators, pouring yourself into something, even without the guarantee of fame or money. It reinforces the idea that the drive often comes from somewhere deeper, more personal.
But then Gemini points out the duet section brings back that frustration about unfair recognition. So it's not all positive reflection.
No, and that feels real too. It's like even while wanting to honor others and value the work itself, There's still that human part that wants to be seen, wants acknowledgement. And it hurts when you feel overlooked.
Adds complexity.
Exactly. It shows that even celebrating others doesn't mean you stop wrestling with your own place in it all.
And Gemini noted the stripped back part, mentioning scary thoughts, life feeling unfair. That vulnerability pops up again, even here. It suggests those internal battles are just part of the backdrop of being creative.
It reinforces that creativity isn't always smooth sailing. It comes from a place that includes struggles too. Putting that vulnerable bit inside a song about honoring others makes the whole thing feel more, well, grounded and real. It's the full picture.
And the end, that message about appreciating people before it's too late, that ties the whole homage idea to something bigger, doesn't it?
Definitely. It broadens homage from just respecting artists to valuing the actual people in our lives. Gives the track a nice layer of emotional weight.
Okay then, for your well-being. Gemini describes this as a really raw look at anxiety, panic attacks, ADHD, but ending with solidarity. Gemini highlighted how the track's structure actually mimics the buildup of anxiety. What hit you about that?
The sheer intensity described. Gemini's focus on that structural buildup mirroring the feeling of anxiety and panic that feels spot on. The start, fade, and vulnerable vocals sets you up for something intimate, maybe difficult, but important.
Yeah, it prepares you.
You know you're going deep into these personal experiences.
And those descriptions Gemini pulled out from the building intensity part. Racing thoughts, losing focus, feeling trapped. They're so specific, so evocative. Really puts you inside that headspace.
Totally. Thoughts be racing, can't focus, trapped inside my mind. It's not vague at all. It's raw, immediate, lived experience coming through, gives it real authenticity.
The chorus depiction of a panic attack feeling insane, the loud heart palpitations, feeling close to death. Gemini notes how intense that is. It doesn't hold back at all.
No, it's incredibly direct. It captures the terrifying physical and emotional side of a panic attack without flinching. Gemini's point about the raw, intense tone is absolutely right here.
And the climactic part, explicitly naming ADHD's chaos, expressing that deep despair, the challenge to walk a mile in my shoes, that really speaks to the isolation these things can bring, doesn't it?
It feels like a breaking point, yeah. A raw outpouring of just how heavy it all is. Naming ADHD directly, expressing that despair, and then that plea for understanding it highlights the isolation powerfully.
But then Gemini points to that sudden break, acknowledging how people might dismiss it, and then the fade out shifts. He explicitly says he wrote it to help others, offering solidarity, belief. That's a huge turn.
A really significant turn. It moves from this intense personal struggle outward into an active connection. It says, I've been through this, maybe my sharing it can help you. It shows that deep empathy. Again, using his own pain to try and offer support. Powerful stuff.
So, looking across all four pieces now, thinking about Gemini's analyses in our chats, that thread of just raw honesty, it's unmistakable, isn't it?
Absolutely. Different topics, different emotions, but always that feeling of authentic expression. Critique in AI therapy, vulnerability in family therapy, reflection in pay and homage, raw intensity and for your well-being. Honesty is the constant.
And that mix of vulnerability and sometimes confrontation, it's there in different ways in all of them. He seems unafraid to put himself out there, whether challenging something external or digging into his own stuff.
Yeah, there's real courage in being willing to be both vulnerable and direct. It makes it feel authentic, and it gives the lyrics real emotional punch.
And the desire to connect, to support others. We saw it in the call for authenticity in art, sharing the personal pain in family therapy and for your well-being. And that explicit message of solidarity at the end, that feels like a big motivator.
It really does. Suggests a strong sense of empathy, recognizing shared human struggles. Even when he's expressing tough personal things or strong opinions, there seems to be this underlying wish to connect meaningfully.
Jimmy, listening to all this, thinking about Gemini's insights, what really stands out is that honesty, that courage you show, exploring such a huge range of intense feelings and viewpoints. There's real power in sharing that vulnerability and conviction. Kind of makes me wonder, as you keep developing your rap-lit-style poetry and motion, as you keep going on your creative path, what truths feel most important for you to explore and share next?
That's a great question to leave hanging there. It'll be really interesting to see how your unique voice keeps evolving, Jimmy, and what new territory you decide to explore in your work.
Jimmy, seriously, thank you for sharing such personal and significant work with us. This deep dive using Gemini's analysis as a guide, it's been genuinely insightful. The depth is clear, and we really appreciate your openness and honesty. We hope you keep exploring these themes, keep reflecting on these connections. It's a powerful journey, this creative expression, and your voice is definitely a valuable one out there.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jimmy. It was a privilege to engage with lyrics that are so powerful and make you think. Your willingness to share is really appreciated.
But for the most part, I'm still getting shit out. It ain't trash day yet, but I wanted to start early. I wanted to get on here to app that's gonna rap for me. Well, let me take that back, because I write my own shit, and I do it swiftly and quickly, and sometimes I can get over that with the truth when I'm technically being honest with 100%, or maybe I should say 99%, because the only thing that I don't do is sing what you're hearing now. But everything else is mine, and no matter what I am, proud.